Hey, so we're switching gears here. And as you know, we're in this series of Did I Catch That? And we're talking about this summer kind of just unique ways that God speaks and communicates to us that we may not think about that much, but He's really good about speaking. And so I want to start out by just saying, let's list out, whoever's brave enough, characteristics of God. Just speak a characteristic of God out loud. Yeah, right. Yeah. You could just keep going, couldn't you, right? The characteristics of God is just amazing. It's what God has. So the thing about that is that we're in this place of relationship with God. It's not just information about Him. It's that we want to know those things. Not just know them theoretically, theologically, but actually know them, and that's the person that we're relating to, right? If you know a person, you're knowing who they truly are. So how do they do that? Well, they do that by communication. Now, the interesting thing with us in the vineyard, if you're around us a lot, we'll say things like, yeah, God said this, and I was praying, and God said this. And sometimes that is correct language because God is speaking, and God speaks, and even our little diagram shows, But many times we get mixed up on that can become limiting because in a relationship, it's way more than just vocally speaking or communicating information, which can be very good. Like, I've been married for 45 years, and I think I know communication with Debbie is so many things. And we have to understand that in that place of communication, we know people. And so in that spot, it's about our senses. It's about this place of how we feel in a situation. I could hold Debbie's hand and know it's Debbie's hand. One time she's putting sunscreen on, and she goes, that shouldn't be there. There's something, it's like, she knows my back better than I do, right? I mean, my touch, it's like pretty weird stuff, but it's a spot where it's like, I know her presence. She has to say something. I can sense who she is because I've been around her and who she is, and who I am, good and bad. She's connected to that, right? And so all these beautiful things we said about God is saying, I want you to know that. I want you to actually experience who I am. And what we see is, Paul talks about what does he want above all else? I want to know Christ. I want to know Him. And so a better word is communicating, right? It's like God is communicating right now to everyone here. His very nature is relational, and He's letting you know, and so you can experience who He is. And He does that in all kinds of particular ways. So the foundation is that He's going to be communicating. And so what I'm going to talk about, we talked about last week about He's communicating in the place, and you go back and listen to it. But Chris talked about this place of stillness and silence. He communicates when you get to that spot. And I want to talk about He communicates through creation. The verse that God is always communicating to us, we're talking about creation. The heavens proclaim the glory of God. The skies display His craftsmanship. Day after day, they continue to speak. Night after night, they make Him known. They speak without a sound or word. Their voice is never heard. Yet, the message has gone throughout the earth, and their words to all, I love this, the words to all the world. That is describing this whole place of communication. And so, just like Chris talked about this place of, if you want to hear God, you need to get to some silence and stillness, because we have a lot coming at us in this world that makes it hard, that is causing us to not be able to have Him communicate because we're distracted in our phones, all the pressures, the interactions, all the things going on, the noise, all the to-do lists, right? What I'm saying is point is, if you want to be hearing from God, you need to pay attention to what he has created around you and how creation is. Now, we're in a broken world, and so we have, we have lots of things that are keeping us from that. The thing about it, though, is it's interesting. We see this throughout the Scripture that God speaks and communicates through creation. Have you read the Psalms? Or it's always talking about creation and how it takes them to God. How they see these things and how it takes them to who God is. And they describe this beauty and awe, and then they say, this is who God is. We look at Jesus. What do we see in Jesus' life? Now, you understand this little side trail here a little bit. Jesus, when he came to this earth, he laid down his divinity. He was still sinless, but he grew in wisdom and stature. So he learned through listening to the Father and growing in wisdom and stature, right? And look at his teachings. The kingdom of God is like what? Mustard seed. You could just go on and on. What other things physically that he uses? What? A pearl. Treasure in a field. It just goes on, right? What other things come to mind? Yeah. Things that he sees. How many times you hear a word about plants? Or birds, or streams, or the sun, or the wind, or the depths of the sea, or roots, or branches, or even weeds, or rocks, or fish, or stars. I mean, it just goes on everywhere. What's that about? It's because he's with God. He's looking at God's creation, and that's an atmosphere in which that he can begin understanding what God's communicating. And so he taught that way. Now, so God creates with us with what he's made. And in Romans it says, since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Basically, go out and watch a cloud, look at the blue sky, look up at the stars, look at the brightness and the power of the sun, look at the plants, look at the creatures, look at all those things that God created, and what you will understand, it will take you and testify who God is. We'll understand that we understand by looking and understanding that we understand divine, hidden qualities and nature of God in that process. The heavens proclaim the glory of God. They just always do. They speak without a sound or a word, but yet they communicate clearly who God is, the invisible qualities. You guys ever watch nature shows? 4K, unbelievable, beautiful. I've always had a hard time with nature shows because the beauty's there, but for me to enjoy a nature show, please take off your soundtrack and quit talking. Bring me back the wind I can hear, bring me back the sea, and quit trying to make a story out of it yourself, and quit trying to say, isn't it amazing that creation is so amazing, it makes me praise creation. I can't take it in, right? But when I look at creation in a place of being in it, it testifies of God, and I can sense his presence. He created it, and we understand in our knower of knowers, this is not a mistake. This was made by God, and this is good, and this is beautiful, and I've been created by God too. So creation is to take you to the Creator and understand the very aspects of that. So I'm going to do something like, here's some of you, how many of you are walkers? Not with walkers, that's me later. Walkers, all right. How many of you are sit in a lawn chair and observe people? That's me, sorry. So whatever one you are, whatever works for you. For me, it's like you got a lawn chair, very comfortable one, by the way, with a little coffee cup holder and a really good cup of coffee. That's me. And I'm going to imagine you to put yourself either walking by this place or you're slopping down right wherever you want in the world for a place of beauty. Okay? So close your eyes for, let's say 30 seconds. And come up with that spot that you would imagine yourself just sitting in right now. And pay attention to what it feels like, what the temperature is, what the sounds are. Okay, sorry to take you out of that. Come on out. All right. So some of you share what you, if you don't mind, share your place. No explanation of your last vacation. Just share your place. All right. Side patio. The beach. Mountains. Yes. Park. Waterfall. Yeah, rocks. It's good. River. So obviously, imagine that, right? There's a reason that's attractive. You know that? There's a reason you wanted to go there. It's because it's tied to the place of who God is. And there's a reason it does something in this place of inside you. Now, I'm a picture taker, and so I thought, I'll put some pretty pictures up there. But what's interesting, when I went there and I thought, this is a really good picture, but I think, it doesn't get me like this picture. Because then I said, oh, the pictures that I remember is those weird moments where somehow it actually is in focus afterwards, but you are at a moment, and I took a picture because I was like, I want to see this again. Because I was feeling that, right? So I'll give a few pictures here. I want to just kind of explain kind of how this affected me, and maybe it'll apply. I was out at a friend's house in Kansas, and I went out on the deck early in the morning. It was really kind of chilly. I sat there, and I wasn't paying much attention. I came out before the sun came up, and then it just started coming up. And I just looked at that, and I thought, oh, my goodness, that's beautiful. I just remember what that felt like. Sit there and think, man, that's so good, right? I can't describe what it did actually for me. I just remember thinking, I would love to, I could tell that this was a taste of what it would be like on the earth without the destruction and damage, right? You notice there's no other objects in there. Another time, I went to Niagara Falls and hated it. Because you got to really look hard not to see a person, and not to see a tourist trap, and not to see a factory. It's really hard, right? And there's lots of people. I didn't hate it. I actually liked it fun. It was fun. But it wasn't like a spiritual experience. But I thought, I'm getting up really early before anybody gets there. So it was me and the park ranger all by myself. And I just find spots by myself, watching this water go over, looking at what that felt like. Whole different experience. This was just recently. I was in Florida, and we had a hotel on the beach. I've never had that before. And so I thought, paying this much, I'm getting up early. So I got up before sunrise every morning, and I went out, and I got my coffee, and I put my lawn chair right at the edge, and I watched the sun come up. It was so good. It's interesting on this one, because I was like, as I was watching the sun come up, I thought to myself, man, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, I don't know I can't even put it into words. It's beyond words. But I thought, this was made by the God who loves me. I could feel this place of what it should be like. I couldn't feel it when I was in the hotel. In fact, if I would have turned around, I wouldn't feel it at all. But I made sure I got right up the edge, right? And what's interesting is, I looked at that and I thought, oh, these people are getting in the way. But they were having such a good time, I said, they should be in this picture because they are experiencing the beauty of this together, right? The thing about that is, it's like, well, I don't have a travel budget. I guess I can't hear God. Right. It's not about that. Jesus he was in deserts most of the time, right? So there's beauty in all places. It's this place of understanding that is created and uniquely by God. And so I sit out by my front, and it's like a little sanctuary of rabbits and I don't know, birds and squirrels, and they don't know I'm there, so they just jumping all around. And I used to think, this looks like some kind of Disney movie. But the reality of it is, I started just like taking it in, like watching the complexity of what was happening with these animals. And then I just happened to notice that this plant had these crazy colors. And I started thinking, how you just keep getting closer, it just got more amazing, right? And I could get even closer than that and even get more amazing, right? And I just recognized the intricacy, the complexity of how everything's doing is way beyond anything I could possibly understand. And I'm a part of this somehow. I'm his created. You know, let me catch up here a little bit. Have you guys ever heard of the 3-day effect? Anybody heard of that? It's kind of an important thing that's been happening lately. There's been lots of research on it. And the 3-day effect is, this is very secular, but they've had people who have come out of sex trafficking and abuse and addiction, and they just take them out of nature, turn off their phones, and they just make them stay there for 3 days. And the results are unbelievably powerful. The people come back, say, I don't know what, and they actually, in this one podcast I listened about it, after I read about it, it's like, they talk about, I felt this thing, and it was like I felt awe. It's like my channels opened up, you know. It was like, yeah, I know. But even in just, anyway, just go out 3 days in nature, it just changed them, right? It's because the heavens proclaim his righteousness, and all people see his glory. They were just getting a taste of who God was. Now, so the other thing I'd say, so a couple things I would just say in this as well, is that the things you'll experience, again, I don't want to name this too much because it's kind of hard to put into words, but to give you some understanding of things that happen is that you actually will get to a place where you will feel awe. And in that spot, it's this place where it captures your heart in a way, this is more than I can really take in. And it's this place in which that you begin understanding this. It says it's a feeling of reverence and respect, wonder, often mixed with a touch of fear. When you're faced with something vast, powerful, sublime, it's a feeling that you might have when looking at a breathtaking natural wonder or a great work of art. When you look at the stars or the beauty of that, it's breathtaking. That's why that word comes from that. It shows the eternal power of God. It comes in, it shows you the beauty. And so, beauty is this place in which that you start seeing the beauty of who God is by seeing the beauty of nature. And you understand this God that I'm desiring is this beautiful. Is that appealing? And then you look at the spot of, it's also this place of reflection, not in like meditation reflection, but it reflects the truths of God. Just like we talked about Jesus, he teaches us the same way. I mean, you see this in the Old Testament and you see it in the New Testament. It talks about a tree. It talks about this whole thing in Psalms 1, a person who's planted it's like a spiritual person who's like a tree planted by a stream of water, which yields fruit in season and out, and its leaves do not wither. Whatever they do prosper. And he's looking at a tree by a stream. And God's speaking of reflecting, that's who I am. Jesus, I am the vine. You are the branch. He thought of that. And he was taught that by looking at a vine and a branch and say, this is the way it is with the Father. and the people he loves and the people he's connected to. And this place, it does this place of connecting us to all creation, this spot that we're actually a part of this whole package of creation. And the thing I'd say, the one that is the one that gets you, because once you get close to God, what you're going to know the most is he sees you. Way more than even the birds and all that. He sees you. He cares for you. I mean, what about that? Just to know you were created by this amazing God. But this God, you know, if you look at James Webb's telescope, look at what's out there, you know, billions and billions of light years away. Oh yeah, that God sees me and cares for me. I consider the heavens and the works of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place. What is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them. It's like I can't believe this is true, but it is.